Dear Year 6 students, today we are going to start or talk together about a very new brand topic, which is poetry. Yes, we have never talked about poetry before. In semester one, we just had a reference to it, but we didn't deeply study it. Today, we are going to study poetry and the elements of poetry. Uh, the first thing we will start with is you will be watching a video. Make sure that you take notes and document all the main points in this video. This is going to help you better understand the topics we're talking about. So please pay attention carefully and listen carefully to the video and take notes. I'll give you 10 seconds or 20 seconds to prepare your video. I'll play it now. Get ready.
What is poetry? Poetry is a piece of writing written by an author called a poet. But what is the purpose of poetry? A poem is written using rhythm, rhyme, and other artistic language to show feelings and emotions. It's often short, but some poets write long poems too. Rhythm and rhyme are a part of many poems. Rhythm is the beat or sound pattern of a poem. Lots of poets use repetition and similar word sounds to create the beat or rhythm. Here's an example. A candy bar, a piece of cake, a lollipop, a chocolate shake. Many poems that have rhythm also have rhyme. Rhyme is having the same sound at the end of two or more words, like bike, hike, and rad, dad. Our poem from earlier has rhyme with the words cake and shake, and it makes me feel hungry. Another common element of poetry is alliteration. Alliteration is when the consonant sound is repeated at the beginning of words. Like Tracy the tiger made a terrifying sound. There are many types of poems that poets write. Some common poems are acrostic, couplet, haiku, limerick, narrative, free verse, humorous, and lyrical. A narrative poem tells a story. There are characters, problems, solutions, and a beginning, middle, and end. Free verse poetry doesn't follow a pattern. You won't see rhythm or rhyme in these poems. Humorous poems are funny, silly, and make us laugh. Lyrical poems express feelings and emotions. They're sometimes sing-songy with their rhythm. Let's look at an example. I have a little frog. His name is Tiny Tim. I put him in the bathtub to see if he could swim. He drank up all the water and gobbled up the soap. And when he tried to talk, he had a bubble in his throat. Let's look for some poetry elements in this humorous poem. Here we see rhyme, rhythm, alliteration, and a character. We know that a poem is written by a poet using rhythm, rhyme, and other artistic language to show feelings and emotions. Poems are usually short, but they can be long too. Listen for descriptions and decide how the poem makes you feel. It could be silly, or sad, or even glad.
Okay, that's it. So simply this video should have given you few information or a little bit of information about poetry and how poetry is made or what does it consist of. Sure, it didn't give you the entire information. It's just a simplified video, but mainly I need to see what do you know right now about poetry? What is poetry mainly about? What is poetry mainly about? So yes, as you all thought, that what controls and what says and what confirms that this piece of writing is a poem is the rhyming. Rhyming differs from poem to another, from kind to another. And as you have seen in the video, that rhyming differs or poems are different. They have different types. So what we are going to do right now, we're going to read more and more about poetry and discuss it more and see, is it enjoyable or not? Just before I start, make sure please that you have your pen and paper in hand, take notes as much as you can, document, think, prepare your questions till the end. And let me tell you, any piece of writing that has rhyming and organized and has a tone is poetry. Even songs that you sing every day, they are a piece of poetry, but they are different kinds. So let's start our presentation for today. Here we go. This is an introduction to poetry. Poetry is a form of writing that uses not only words, but also form. What do you mean, Mr. Waleed, that it's not or doesn't only use words, but also form? Like the examples that you have seen, dad, bad, cat, and mat, this is a form. This is rhyming, where the writer doesn't only collect words. For example, when we write a fictional story or when we write a fictional text, we mainly, as I kept advising you, we mainly use vivid words, powerful adjectives, powerful adverbs. We mainly use words. But when it comes to poetry, words alone are not enough. We need to organize these words in a specific form to make them look like a real professional poem. And within the presentation, we will see some samples and see how we can or how we can manage to do such thing. Also, it uses patterns of sound. Patterns of sound, we will explain this later, but I would appreciate if you just recall in your mind what are the devices or the figurative devices that deal with sound when it comes into writing. We have lots of devices or literature devices that deal with sounds. I'm sure that you know some of them. I'm sure that you recall them. Tell me, what do you recall? That's right, as you thought, onomatopoeia, that's right. Onomatopoeia, rhythm, that's right. Alliteration can be considered as sound because it mainly deals with sound. That's right, thank you so much. What else? So we don't deal only with words, we deal also with the form, with the organizing, patterns of sound, imagery. Imagery or imagery, what is it? Come on, that is very simple. We have spent a whole term talking about that deals with what? I won't say it, which will be mentioned in details later, but we can give a sample of, which is a simile. For example, it's part of imagery. Figurative language to convey the message. Convey here means to deliver the message. Figurative language is really important when it comes to poetry. Actually, imagine and remember with me how many times we kept mentioning that in fictional writing and in stories, we need to use descriptive and figurative language. See how many times I mentioned and to how extent we had to use it? That was too much, right? When it comes to poetry, poetry doesn't need too much. Poetry is mainly about figurative language, which means that your effort will be exerted more and more to make it more descriptive, more imaginative, more sound appealing to readers. Any poem will include some or all of these elements. Sure, you cannot merge them all, but if you did, that would be very professional. Now let's deal with the form and see what is a form or what is the form about. A poem's form is its appearance, how it looks like actually, how it is written. Like in any text and in any piece of writing, we do have a layout, right? You remember when we talked about news reports, we have layouts. When we talk about the biography, we have layout. If you talk about the email or the letter, we have a layout. Same thing is applied when it comes to poetry. Poetry doesn't stand alone by itself like this. It has to be organized and it has a specific layout. So the first thing that you should know that all poems should be written in lines. All poems should be written in lines. They are divided into lines. And to make it more organized, in your fictional stories, we used to divide our story into paragraphs, an introduction, or the setting as we used to call it. Then you have the, who remembers? The opener, where it included the setting and then characters, then the raising actions and so on. All these parts were divided into paragraphs. Same thing is applied here, but the difference that the poetry is written, or a poem is written in lines, and each group of line collected together are called stanzas. So poems are divided into lines. Each group of lines are called stanzas. So let's read this part together. A poem's form is its appearance. Poems are divided into lines. Many poems, especially the longer ones, may also be divided into groups of lines called stanzas. So, Mr. Waleed, do you mean that short poems don't need a stanza? Sure, they don't need a stanza, because if you are writing a poem of 6 lines, for example, it would be no use to make a stanza, because usually a stanza is kind of a paragraph that controls the topic you're talking about. And we will read samples that identifies the problem here. So just to confirm, the form of a poem is lines, and each few lines are called stanzas. And this is available where? In longer poems. Great. And as I explained earlier to you, that stanzas function like paragraphs in a story. And each one contains a single idea, or take the idea one step further. So if your poem is just about one idea, one thing, you really do not need to waste your time just dividing it into different separate stanzas that don't help you or don't support your idea. That's why no need for stanzas unless you are writing a long poem. Great, that's a great idea. What is the purpose of the first stanza of the Highwayman? Now, here we have a sample poem. This is one stanza. The one you have in front of you right now is one stanza. Because how many lines are they? They are nearly 10 lines. Most of them will be talking about the same idea. So let's take 30 seconds of reading just to understand what is it talking about. Take 30 seconds, pause and listen. Okay. I guess that you have read well. Nearly you have understood few of the words. Now, before we discuss the purpose of the stanza, let's discuss first of all the features of the stanza that we have read here. For example, did we have, or did we recount, or did we read any vivid words in this stanza? Have we read any vivid words in this stanza? Think and tell me. I guess we had, as you all thought, a lot of. See, actually, there is no one line that passed without a vivid verb or a vivid adjective or a vivid word. Now, away from vivid words and vivid adjectives, think of the images given. Aren't there images mentioned in the poem? Yes, there are lots and lots of images. Actually, from the beginning, when you start reading the first line, you can feel the atmosphere of the poem. So now tell me, what is the atmosphere of the poem? Think carefully, then I'll answer you and tell you if you were correct or not. What is the atmosphere? What is the mood here in the story or in the poem? Tell me. What is the mood or atmosphere of the poem here? Okay, just to confirm, what I mean by atmosphere, atmosphere doesn't mean the physical atmosphere. I mean the mood. The mood. Yes, sadness. Great. Is it only sadness? Okay, we read only the first stanza. The first stanza shows lots of things. Showed sadness, showed fearness, scary. It has lots of things. All the images here, all the images and all the words and all the adjectives mentioned here just go to something that is bad, something that's scary and frightening. The wind was a torrent of darkness. Usually when it's dark, things get worse. In stories, usually when it's dark, things get worse. People who are afraid get more scared. People who are sad get more and more and more sad because they are lonely and alone. So the atmosphere of the thing of being dark or in darkness gives you the impression of sadness. Among the gusty trees, the moon was a ghostly galleon. Ghostly, ghostly. Come on, ghostly means that this is that city of ghosts. It's a hated, isolated place. No one likes there. No one goes there. So all the atmosphere of the text was really, really sadness or saddening and frightening. Great. Let's go on and complete. So what is the purpose of the first stanza here? What is the purpose of this poem in front of you? It tells you what? If you think all the first 8 lines, it is describing the area, the street, the path, the road that the highwayman rides on. So it's all a kind or a piece of introduction to the highwayman who's riding and riding and riding to reach his destination. So all the first stanza is showing you the sitting. So we use the sitting in a story, and we are using a sitting again also in a poem, but in a arithmetical one, in a rhyming, or in rhyming. Now, let me ask you a question. Do we have any inference in this poem as the inference lesson we took before? Yes, we have a kind of inference here. They say the highwayman came riding up, riding, 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 riding. What kind of riding he's riding here? A car or what? From the image given, you would infer easily what is he riding. Can you call what is it? Can you guess what is he riding? Mostly 90% of you would get it right. Yes, a horse. A horse. With this image available in front of you, it would be a horse. Yes. Highwayman came riding up. Why? Riding up, usually things that are ridden are a bicycle, a motorcycle, or a horse. They are mainly the things that you can use the verb ride with. So with such images, you wouldn't ride a bicycle, sure. Right? So your proposal would be, or your proposition would be, either a horse or a motorcycle. With the image given here, I'm sure it wouldn't be a motorcycle. Motorcycle gives more action to the poem or to the story. We don't have such impression here. So that mainly would go to a horse. Let's be sure and complete and read and see if it is right or no. Part number 2, sound devices. What are the sound devices used in a poem? Some poems use techniques of sound, such as the rhythm, rhyme, and alliteration. Mister, I'm sorry, I have a question. Yes, sir. Isn't rhythm the same as rhyme? Oh dear, no, that is not the same thing. Not because they share a few letters, they are the same in function as well. They are different, and we should study them now and see. So mainly you need to know that some of the techniques of sound are the rhythm, the rhyme, and alliteration. Let's start with the rhythm, and please Take care while you study this part because it's somehow confusing to many of your friends and maybe to you yourself. What is a rhythm? What is rhythm? Carefully think of it. Think of it by yourself for just a few seconds. What is rhythm? Don't tell me, just think of it. Rhythm, rhythm, rhythm. We have never encountered such thing, Mr. Waleed. That is really difficult. No, it is not. When you see, you'll find it's not. Rhythm is the pattern of beats or stresses in a poem. Poets use patterns of stressed and unstressed syllables to create a regular rhythm. I can't understand 100%, sir. I know. Usually, when you make a poem and you are writing a perfect line and second line and third line, to make lines go smooth and to make the sound looks the same and looks rhythmic. Rhythmic means that it has a rhythm equals to each other. You can say it in the same way for line 1 and line 2 and line 3. All of them are following the same sound. You have to use same stressed and unstressed syllables. So you will be picking a word that has 2 syllables here, and on the second line, another 2 syllables there. So mainly rhythm deals with the stressed and unstressed syllables. Mainly rhythm deals with stressed and unstressed syllables. That is the main thing. So rhythm is not just the tone, it's mainly about syllables. Let's see. Try beating out the rhythm with the finger as you read. In other words, try to sing it. Try. Try to sing this, and you will find the words that are somehow stressed are in bold. Try to sing these lines. Making a rhythm and beating with your finger means that you have or you can stress them. And you can rhythm them, making them like a song. Try. You'll have 1 minute of thinking to do this. And then we'll see if it's right or no. So as we see here, again, we can read them. Usually the stressed syllabled words will be the most clear will. She was a child and I was a child in this kingdom by the sea. But we loved with a love that was more than love. I and my Annabelle Lee. That's how it goes. You will find that line 2 by the sea. Last line, I and my Annabelle Lee. C and Lee. The same syllables are used. It gives you the same rhythm, and also, by the way, it will give you the same rhyming. We will see how it went with us in second sample. Now, the rhyming. What is rhyming about? Rhyming is the repetition of the same or similar sounds, usually in stressed syllables at the ends of lines, and sometimes within a line. This confirms the idea of the previous slide of the rhythm when we found here C and here Lee. And here it's in the same line. She was a child and I was a child. We have rhyming here as well. C, Lee. We have a sample here. Let's follow together, read it. There are strange things done in the midnight sun. That is rhyming. Done, sun. By the men who moil for gold. Those who think it is difficult. I'm not sure, and I didn't say that this is easy. However, it's not difficult. Why? You just need to know what is this concept of rhyming about. Rhyming is that each line ends with the same rhyming as the other one. Usually they shouldn't be in the same following line, like line 1 should end like number 2. No, maybe like 1 ends with 3, line 2 ends with like 4. So the similar sounds that ends the lines, and maybe within the line, like this one, done and son. The rhyming pattern that is created at the end of lines of poetry, like this. Marie had a little lamb, its fleece as white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Where is the rhyming here? Rhyming here is, first one we will consider it A. Mary had a little lamb. So that last sound here is B. I'll consider this rhyming A, letter A. Its fleece as white as snow. Snow, whoa, whoa, sound O. I'll consider it B. And everywhere that Mary went, that's a new sound. We have B, we have O, and we have T. That is C. The lamp was sure to go. Oh, whoa. So go here is the repetition of sound B. So the rhyming here for this stanza is A, B, C, B. A, B, C, B means that the stanza went, line 1 is different, line 2 and line 4 are the same, line 3 is different. I want you to think of this, just this stanza, these few lines, and tell me if you understand them or no. Think of them for a while. Great. Many of you said it correct. B and B. That's right. Mahmoud, what you don't understand in this part is? So guys, just to explain now, as I have here, rhyming means that they share and they end all the same parts together of the last sound, like the example in front of you.